is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And I do want to say that originally our own Reverend Prince Fleet Easton was going to, should we trade? Love these little course corrections, Kay. Going to give our presentation, our message today is his maiden voyage. However, yesterday he had a very interesting experience, and he was on an airplane and there was mechanical failure and they had to land. They could not make it to Palm Springs and had to do an emergency landing in Thermal, and which I think there's a tiny airport, right, Fleet? A tiny little airport there. And so he is recovering from that, and I have an out-of-town guest from Colorado, and we were going to be leaving early this morning. And I said, no, let's just wait for Fleet and get the room set up at the Rose of Sharron Sanctuary. And then Fleet came in and shared his experience, and I hugged him and said, do you want me to give the presentation? He said, would you? So I said, yes, I would, right? And so he's going to give the presentation at another time. But, it's the spirit of joy. And in that wonderful 5th century, that great mystic Meister Eckhart said, joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. And if we are not in joy, then we are in fear. And there's a lot of fear-based thinking going on right now. And in the world, on the world scene, there's a lot of fear-based thinking. But what I know is that fear knocked at the door. Faith answered, behold, no one was there. And that when we open the space, and when we talk about letting go and letting God do what God does best by means of us, we are the only channel that this energy flows through. I mean, all living beings, of course, but we are conscious. We have consciousness. So when I know that I'm an ego, it's because I'm not in joy. And when we are in that place of joy, that joy is all enveloping. It envelops everything in the energy field. And as we go about our Father, Mother, God's business, and remember that Divine Father stands at our right side and Divine Mother stands at our left side, and that we are giving birth to this Christ consciousness, that this energy lives and moves and has its being within the manger of our own hearts and souls. So we open to the joy, and it's told to us, and I love that verse about where Jesus said that, about the grieving, and that out of our grief we'll find our strength and joy. And that Fleet looked up in the Webster's Dictionary, there are over 200 references in the biblical works alone that states about joy. Give, that you may receive, that your joy may be full. So when we give, that we may receive. In other words, we are creating a space of joy. So we're giving, and it's really so wonderful. I get so much out of giving something and seeing the joy on someone's face. And what I know is that your good is joyful to me. And I have always said, your success makes mine possible. My success makes yours possible. I am so happy for you as if it happened to me, because we are one, aren't we? So when people say, oh, well, you're competition, there's no competition. There is mutual cooperation, and there's the acknowledgement of our oneness, and that all is consciousness. I remember in my San Diego ministry, Reverend Kathy Hearn came to me, and she had a little tiny church in Mission Valley. And in the United Church of Religious Science bylaws, that you could not start a church within 19 miles of another church. And because you'd be encroaching on their population was the idea. So she was like 5 miles from me, and I was the president of United Clergy of Religious Science. And she came to me asking permission that she wanted to start a religious science church and be affiliated, because she was affiliated with Dr. Terry Cole Whitaker, and Dr. Terry had gone independent, so she was no longer part of the religious science movement per se, but a very powerful New Thought movement, and made a tremendous difference in the 80s of going and getting the message out there in just an amazing way. And she wrote the New York Times bestseller, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. In fact, I was with her when she was writing that book on her little typewriter. And we were Sunday school teachers at the Church of Religious Science in La Crescenta, California. So, you know, we have a long, long history together. And so energetically, when Kathy asked, you know, and she, you know, was very respectful. And I said, Kathy, everything is by right of consciousness. Everything. And so absolutely, open up your church, do what you need to do. And so a year went by, and I was doing a lot of things, and I felt that I no longer fit in the box of religious science, and there was a lot of infighting and political games going on at the founders' church, and I just thought, you know, I was raised in a dysfunctional family. I don't need to stay in this one. So I went independent. So when I went independent, it was really interesting. And before I went independent, we moved. We were in a church that we would have 1,000 people at each service, and so we had 3,000 people coming every Sunday. So then we went into a 22,000 square foot facility. And it was interesting because I received word that, you know, there were people that were in the area that were concerned that I was too close to them in proximity. And I just shared, as I did, you know, with my former meeting, is that everything is by right of consciousness. So if we know that everything is by right of consciousness, there's no fear-based thinking that they're going to steal my people, because it's God's people. And it's what we resonate to, what we gravitate to. So it was really interesting when I shared this, and especially, you know, with the minister that I had already given permission, you know, at an earlier time, that there is only mutual cooperation, and everything is by right of consciousness, and that's the joy. So when we're giving sacred service, if we're not getting more out of it than we're giving, then that's ego. And when we're in that stage and at that mindset, well, after all I've done for them, this is the thanks I get. If we're not getting joy out of our sacred service, we need to reevaluate. And when we reevaluate, it's good to say, all right, this serves me, and, you know, I need to work on this, and this does work, that doesn't work. It's fine, because the universe is always smiling on each and every one of us if we come from the spirit of joy, and we can find joy in the smallest things. And, you know, it's really interesting is that I believe that, you know, people say, well, you know, I'm trying to meditate, and, you know, it's just not working out, and you know, we don't need to try to do anything. I believe that we are the prayer that's praying itself, that everything is sacred, that everything is a meditation, and that as we recognize the sacredness of life, that even, the profane becomes sacred, because we're sending light and sending energy upon us. That's why we do not judge. And Jesus, who became the Christ, was very clear, judge not, lest ye be judged. Judge righteous judgment. And what that means is send out compassion. Send out understanding. Draw the larger circle. He drew a circle that shut me out, but love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. And when we take those in to the heart center, remembering the heart is what? It is the doorway to the soul. And that through our oneness do we live and move and have our being. And we're just, you know, we go through these experiences of planes almost crashing. It's so interesting. I was many, many years ago, and my daughter was about 8. We were flying into Oklahoma because I was speaking at Fountainhead. And I was born in Oklahoma and had not been there since I was 3 months old. Thank you, parents, you know, on one level. So, but all my family has kind of that little, you know, twangy accent. And so I thought, well, this is really fortuitous that, you know, I'm going to the place of my birth, and I'm going to be giving, you know, the keynote speech. And the director that introduced me, you know, said, this is Reverend Sharron Stroud. And she was born right here in Oklahoma, and our little girl has come home. It's like, okay, all right. So there we were, right, on the way back from Oklahoma, and we were flying into LAX, and there was mechanical things going on with the plane, and the plane was dipping and doing what planes do when they go through those kinds of mechanical issues. And Tricia just sitting up, had a little boy next to her. He goes, I'm scared. And she goes, I'm not. My mother is a minister. And his eyes got big as saucers. He goes, a real live girl, Reverend? And this little boy's like 9. A real live girl, Reverend? And she said, yes. Like, absolutely. So then, everything worked out. The plane corrected itself, and we landed safely. But I know those experiences, and that we can be shaken by them. But the truth is, when we have a destiny to fulfill, we're going to fulfill that destiny while we're here. And while we are here on the planet, the Earth Mother, how wonderful to realize that we're a choice. That the Course in Miracles states, I can choose joy instead of this. I can choose peace instead of this outer thing. I can choose love instead of this. I can choose faith instead of this. Give that you may receive, that your joy may be full. And when we open the space and we feel that joy in the little things, of people, that are trying to meditate, when we realize that everything is sacred. So when you wash your hands, and we're doing a lot of washing of hands these days, aren't we? We feel the water on our hands and the texture of the soap and the energy that we are cleansing, purifying, harmonizing, balancing, attuning, and heightening the energy field. So whatever it is we are doing, it's a meditation. We are the prayer that's praying itself. We are joy that is fulfilling itself. And when we understand that about being in the world of a higher spiritual consciousness, we really do trust the universe, don't we? And when we have that level of trust, the universe comes rushing in. The angels come rushing in. The enlightened ones come rushing in. And everything is made clear to us. And I always add, with ease and grace. And when it is made clear to us with the ease and grace of the universe, we know that we are about our Father, Mother, God's business. That Christ lives within the manger of our own heart and soul. And as we access that energy, that everything in the outer world, none of these things move me. None of them. This is the outer world. And in fact, the Apostle Paul said, in my weakness, I have found my perfect strength. Just as Jesus said, in our grieving, our strength is in joy. And to find that place of joy and to recognize that it is an eternal verity within the hearts and souls of each and every one of us. So let's not give our power away to the things of this world. Let's come back into being who we are, into our own energy field, and acknowledge that with Jesus, when he said, I and my Father are one. I say I and my Father, Mother, God are one, because we recognize in our way of life the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And as we recognize that, we access, the heart, the feminine, the sensitivity, and the consciousness, that place of cause and effect that can discern. And we need to be in the world and to discern. Not of it is of a higher spiritual quality of life that does experience joy, that does look through the appearances that show up, that we give our power away to. We are in charge. We have a choice. It's not adversity that upsets us. It's our reaction to adversity that we give our power away to. So when we come to that place of joy and know that none of these things move me, that I am in a high place and I will not come down, that energetically we charge an energy within us that allows us to be in the world, but of a higher vibratory spiritual frequency. So today, choose joy. Today, choose peace. Today, choose life. Today, choose love. Today, choose beauty. See beauty in the small things. I mean, I'm living here in the country, and we look out, and there's like dozens of quail and doves, and the bunny rabbits come in to join, and that we got chipmunks and squirrels all eating. I put out the bird seed, And they're all eating together and enjoying life together. All the species, the doves and the quail and the sparrows, all the species coming together. And then a falcon flew and took a drink from my fountain, and I thought, the spirit of the falcon of strength. So it is out of our grief that we do find our perfect strength. And we find the joy that lives within each of us. Joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. We choose joy. And with these very interesting times that we are living in, I think this is what we're called to do. We're called to see the joy in the world. We are called to see the joy in one another. We are called to see the joy in the landscape, in the stars that come out at night. So I'm going to conclude with a poem I wrote many, many years ago. As I sit and ponder this life's beguiling quest, I can hear the far-off thunder of the awe-inspiring guest. Its voice is ever present as I sit and contemplate, wondering of the answer to the riddle of my fate. But wait, my destiny is e'er to be with an alone figure called me. And when we recognize that, we choose joy. We choose life, right? So we're all going somewhere, and where is that? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. Because none of these outer things move me. I am in a high place, and I will not come down. So I say to you, my beautiful viewing audience, so grateful for you. Namaste. The God in me celebrates the God in you, and the God in you celebrates the God in me. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, there is only one of us. Namaste. And I say shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. It's the third night of Hanukkah. We say happy Hanukkah to our beautiful Jewish community. And with Tiny Tim, God bless us, everyone. And so,